Hank made the noise, psh. Salvador Dali prepared for the unusual. The rest of us remember. I'd remember this. It looks like stairs to an attic, but much, much more. A third-floor penthouse. Then he grabbed the bars again for added celebrity appeal. Despite our impressive accumulation of knowledge, there's not been enough mental stimulation to end our need for prison bars. Not that that's likely, but we should reach beyond the boosterism that identifies enforcement as the goal. Be skeptical, Mr. Trainer, because there's an element of truth to this conjecture. Justice is more than revenge. Justice would negate the cause of crime. I followed Hank to the front windows and said, "Just Franklin, and you've seen the alley." He answered, looking down. "Just Franklin sounds simple, like heaven, but look closer at the alley connecting to White. At one time, that middle-of-the-block shortcut was a major thoroughfare for thousands of hustlers slipping from sight, pounding out today's economic framework." I smiled. "A foregone conclusion," I said. "The modern world is built on the plight of previous generations." Hank nodded. "Generations of struggle dishonored by our self-righteously suffocating good citizenship. Standing by, letting inflation's comfortable increase deflate the wealth of the poor. We sit too heavy on our laurels to stand up for universal prosperity. Yeah, I know, Mr. Trainer, with the free market battle cry finally ringing so clearly in our ears, it is time for the next step." We both laughed. Hank said, "I remember that sarcastic Individualist of the Year plaque in the hall outside your office. I know you're not in my theoretical choir." I said, "After Dr. Hammer begged through my secretary to get me to accept your plane ticket, he called you an unrepentant utopian fanatic." Hank said, "I'm convinced." So I asked Hank, "You realize the marketplace for that idea dwindled?" He dropped his eyes and said, "I'm not arguing. I prefer to think I'm difficult for anyone to persuade. Besides, the ideological marketplace isn't closed until the corrupted logic is left behind us. Are we really accomplishing major steps, Mr. Trainer, or carelessly declaring the Cold War over to start another party? A symbolic reshuffling away from the bottom, less deserving, underprivileged all over again." Hank was convinced people were shorted, so I ignored him to get water from the refrigerator for dampening his leftism. Pouring, I contradicted. "Mr. Greenway, you're one of the enamored with Gorbachev's belief that Stalin mismanaged Lenin's proletarian revolution. Dr. Hammer staked his capitalist credentials to that moniker too, but the command economy is where radicals should come down to earth." Hank emptied his glass and said, "I know. I'm saying goodbye to New York tonight. I would like for you to ride with me, if you can." I was either too surprised or confused to have an excuse, so I just asked, "Where?" He said, "Everywhere. Have a bicycle?" Then I responded, "No," too quick. And my neighbor downstairs offered his. So Hank could decide. If not, we can dig one up. "And you'll need a helmet." "Helmet?" I laughed. "They said you weren't wearing one in the accident." "Meaning you shouldn't? We're touring a dangerously driven city, and you don't even have your own bike. Obviously, you're not experienced enough to make a no-helmet decision. Like protecting children's softer heads for their own good, you'll wear one." I said, "The humiliation compared to a child." He said, "Get over it. Even one of Tom Wolfe's invincible masters of the universe has to understand overly aggressive driving rules today. Bike and helmet." Hank grinned because my neighbor's bike was better. He took it on his shoulder and locked it to his on the street while I changed, wondering what that controversial Arm & Hammer got me into. Hank locked both bikes, so his unencumbered mind could wander without watching them. When I came down, I asked, why bother? Hank said, thieves are industrious, not trusted for a second. Did you appreciate how I yelled up, hurry up, to bring the upper crust down to earth? I said, uh-huh.